It's Sunday, July 14th, 2024. And yeah, I'm really tired. I did get a day of rest yesterday. We did do grocery shop, but I didn't come out to the bee yard. Wasn't really that great of weather. I guess earlier on in the day it was, but we were away. I only have 6 of these 6-frame nukes to check for cells. And I'm adding a second to them at the same time because we're in honey flow and they're kind of packing out. I mean, they're queenless, so it's not that big a deal, but still, they'll put it up top when they need the space. Because this whole thing has taken me so much energy and so much time, I didn't do any grafting this year, which is a shame because I really enjoy that part. I love doing grafting. I love producing queens, mating nukes, the whole thing. I just love that part of beekeeping. However, I didn't get to do that this year, but I did manage quite a substantial comeback here, thanks to everyone around me. It wasn't me, but it's still taken a lot of time and effort. I've got to get looking into these 6s because they have cells. I made them queenless, and then they have queen cells that need to be knocked down. So that's why I'm out here. That's what I'm doing today. Our southern beekeeper brethren are kind of past their swarm season, but swarm season is just getting underway here. I hear one in the air there, but there's one hanging here. It's been here a while, at least overnight. I don't know if it left on Friday or Saturday, but it's the season. We get a day of rain or a few days of rain, and then a warm, humid day. The bees get jumpy and they take off. So this is kind of my swarm tree. Most of my swarms end up hanging here. So I've got my little tractor. I'm going to bring my swarm box right up under the swarm. There's nothing special. It's just a 2-way pallet, and try to get the swarm goes down to here. So it'd be nice if that branch, if I could get under that. But we will do our best here. I don't know if you can see it, but I've prepared my box with a little bit of swarm lure. It's kind of a Nazanov sort of a formulation. It's very effective to make them sort of hone in on that box and stay in there. So I'm going to lift this up now. Okay, I think you can see that. Shake them right in there. Now, if the queen has gone in there, they should follow her. This is mostly foundation with a couple of older drawn frames. The older ones kind of have a familiar aroma to them. There's a bit of a cluster here. It's about as easy as swarm capture goes. So they often will, the flyers will end up collecting back on the tree where they were, but this time they're not. They're staying in the box here. So I'm going to move that away. It's Monday, July 15th, 2024. Well, the 15th of July, halfway through July now. August certainly begins a different phase in my beekeeping. I always count the 1st of August, or first week of August, as kind of the end of my ability to make a lot of changes here. I have to start making sure everything gets prepped for winter, I have to make sure everything starts is in appropriate equipment for winter. I can't be transferring a bunch of equipment. I've not had good success with that. Is why I say that. I've transferred stuff in August and it's never wintered well for me. So maybe I'm doing something wrong, but that's just the case. The sound out here is quite remarkable. A lot of activity. You can hear the fanning in the hives, just like a waterfall out here, a lot of white noise. So you can see I brought a skid of honey supers out here, and I'm fixing to deal these out in the apiary. They're certainly been bringing in the nectar and making honey here the last week or two. Now, once I'm done that, I need to prepare a few more hive locations here. Next, either Monday or Tuesday, I'll be going over to Ian's and getting 37 nukes from there. They're small. They're in my little 4-frame boxes, but he said they're really laying well and they're going to build fast. So I'm going to set those up into 6-frame equipment, and you can see way in the distance here I've dragged out my my polystyrene 6-frame equipment because I don't have enough wooden stuff. I never have enough wooden stuff. I build it every winter and I buy some every year, but I just don't ever have enough. So it is what it is. I have a love-hate with those polystyrenes, as you know. I love 2 things about them. I love that I have them. I love 3 things about them, okay? I love that I have them. I love that the bees do well in them. The polystyrene, the R value, the insulation really does make a difference to the bees. So that's the second thing I love about them. And I love what I paid for them, which I didn't pay much at all. I mean, nothing. It cost me some work to acquire those. So that is the polystyrene story, but I really don't like anything else about them. They don't fit in my equipment standards or anything. It's always a workaround as far as the polys go. But enough complaining about those. At least I have them and I can put bees in them when I have bees, which this year, you know, thanks to everybody, I've got a lot of bees. People asking me about counts, you know, how many do you have now? I don't even know. I thinking I have 100 and I don't know. These 37 are going to probably drive me over 110 now. But again, a lot of them are nukes, so a lot of them aren't producing honey. As far as honey producers, there's probably about maybe 75 honey producers, which should give me an acceptable crop this year. It's the 15th and I'm adding thirds to some of them. So I think we're doing okay. Now, before this bee stings me, I'm gonna go get my veil and get started on this. So there's always a question, when do you super your hives? You know, and there's no, I don't think there's any hard and fast rule or good answer to that question, because there's a lot of variables. Most things in beekeeping, an answer to almost any question in beekeeping would start with, it depends. And some of the variables are, what's my particular honey flow like? Is it low and slow? Is it long and drawn out? How much honey do I typically get in a honey flow? And what period of time does that honey come in? Or, you know, honey doesn't come in, nectar comes in, but you know what I mean. So that's a variable. If someone in a part of the world that gets 50 pounds of honey over 8 weeks, that's not the kind of advice I need as far as when to super a colony. Our honey flow is typically very fast, very short, and produces a lot of honey. I'm talking 200 pounds in 6 weeks. So the rule that you hear online a lot is, well, you wait till it's 80% full, and then you look how chill these bees are. They're not reacting to me at all. The rule that you see online, people say, well, it's 80% full, then you add a super. Well, that won't do here. You don't wait till it's 80% full. However, I will caveat that I want to put more I want to have more empty space earlier on in the flow than later on. So then I get up my crystal ball and I say, well, when is the flow going to end? And then, decrease the amount of free space as I approach that. So you can see I need to be a bit of a fortune teller. Now, I want to put on quite a bit of space right now. I typically will pull off 100 or more pounds per colony, and that's 3 boxes or more, 4 boxes. 5 is not unheard of, but it's not nearly as common for me. So I want to put on a box here. When I see them on the 15th of July, when I see them working a box, I want to add another box, right? Because they're going to fill that box. They need more space. If this was the 5th of August and they started working a box, I'm not going to add another one at that time. And besides that foundation, I want to make sure I get my foundation on at the beginning of the flow, not at the end. I'm actually adding almost exclusively drawn comb today. I've put on pretty much all the foundation I'll put on. This was a foundation frame, just to show you. So they're just starting to work that. It's just starting to put nectar in there. So they've drawn that, and that's a frame that I waxed. I pre-waxed that foundation. And another thing is I do prefer to run 9 frames in here. They uncap nicer. I save equipment. Every 10 colonies, I got another box of frames, right? Saves me a lot of money. And so, but also when I have foundation on here, I want 10 frames so that they don't start drawing them kind of crazy. So I'll start with 10. And then when I come to put this next box on, I'll take one of these out, space them to 9 because now they're drawn. And then I can add 8 because the next box is drawn, so I don't need to add another 9. But I want to check this this second box down, and if it has 10 frames, I'm going to change that into 9 while I'm here. They've glued the frames to the upper box. And usually digging around in here is when they get mad and come out swinging. Okay, I think, yeah, there's 9. There's 9 in that, so we'll leave that alone. I could take some out of here and look down too. Okay, I supered my outyard this morning and I didn't take a veil or a smoker. I didn't even have a hive tool in my hand, and I had to super these, and there was one of them that they were pretty feisty. I had to get creative. Okay, I'm gonna break these. I'm gonna break these free. And now I kind of have time to do this. Today I'm not in that much of a hurry. I'm sort of getting my supers on a little bit earlier this season. So got a little bit extra leeway. I've had some rest. I'm feeling good. Some of these frames really look nice. They're nicely drawn. Most of this was foundation. Foundation like 10 days ago, or whatever it was, I put these on. Try to get that one out. That's beautiful. I'm gonna smoke these a little bit. I haven't really smoked them a lot, and they're starting to get a little jumpy there. It's not that warm. It's been rainy. So they're kind of a little jumpy. Okay, so they're kind of freed up now. I get my stainless spacing tool that I love so much, And just like that, 9 frames. Now this is a drawn super. And you may see that there's 10 frames in here. So I need to take 2 out because I want 9. And I'm going to add one from the box below it. Just like that. And then, once again, space those out nice. Commercial guys don't use a tool like this, and I don't think, yeah, they might say, oh, I don't have time. You have time because this, I've seen commercial guys do it, and this is way faster than what they're doing, but you got to keep track of a tool, and that's the problem. My first summer working bees, I used the standard telescoping cover, wooden inner cover and stuff like that, and I noticed that the little cutout on the front, the bees really liked the upper entrance. So when I went to the migratory covers the next year, I cut some wood pieces that are just shy of the length, and that gives an upper entrance, just holds the lid up sideways. I put it on the outside, of course. No, I've never used them since that first year until now. But I'm using them now for ventilation because it's been so hot. Gives them just a little hole there on this side to vent air. Okay, I'm bushed. And my back hurts from lifting all those deeps. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, so these, I've got to super this one, and I've got to shake these 3 down. These nukes that I got on the mediums, they're doing really well. But they have no queen excluders, so I need to get in there and shake them down, get the queen in the bottom. So this bee is going to sting me, so I'll sign off. And I'll see you tomorrow. It's Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. I'm out here a little bit earlier than I often am, but you know, I was feeling good and time to get some work done. I do get anxious about the work that, you know, gets left over from the day before, and I didn't finish these colonies. Now the story here is these 2 behind here and this one, that one needs a super as well. But the problem is there's no queen excluder yet. And I actually see another one right here that I did yesterday. There's no queen excluder. So that means a shakedown. And the problem is if I get 2 supers on, then that's shaking 20 frames. I just got to make sure the queen is in the bottom box so that she doesn't end up above the queen excluder. So that's what I'm starting to do here. I was planning to do 3 of these, but it looks like I'm doing 4. And I better scan the rest of my apiary here to make sure I haven't forgotten any others. If I get to honey harvest and I realize I forgot one, then that's kind of a real pain because, you know, I'm cherry picking frames and I'm trying to find the queen and the whole thing. It's a real circus. So the other thing I've got going on today is just preparations. There's kind of a mess here right now. There's a mess of 6 framers and kind of some boxes, drawn comb and all that kind of thing. So I have to prepare for, I got 2 big things coming up. Tomorrow I'm getting some more queens. I think I'm getting about 25 queens tomorrow from James McNally again. Thank you, James. And they'll go in these 6 framers. I think there's a couple 10s that I transferred into as well. So we'll put those in there. And then next Monday, Tuesday, I'm thinking it's going to be Tuesday, but I'm saying Monday, Tuesday, maybe Monday. I'm getting 37 nukes from Ian, and those have to go into 6s as much as possible. And that's when I'm going to get my polystyrene 6s out and start filling those up as well. So we'll fill as many wooden ones as we can, and then we'll have to do some polys. my supplier is low on boxes. I'm procuring another 5 boxes, 6 frame boxes, but that won't be until after I get the nukes. So we'll have to see what happens there. Okay, well, it's a nice morning. It's not hot. It's 16 to 18 C. Some would say it's chilly, but it's beautiful to work out here at this temperature. I hope the bees don't beat me up too bad. I try not to come out when it's cool. They don't like that. So I'm going to dive into this and get these honey supers on and get these bees shaken down. I didn't check this one yesterday. This is the bonus hive that I found in the corner. I see they're bearding out the front door. So they've got a lot of bees in there. And so I better check that. They could use another box. I'm starting to talk like Mike Berry could use. Good grief. I love you, Mike. Now, these nukes, these 3, excluding that one, so this one and these 2, these were the nukes on medium frames that I bought. And this is a girl who works strictly mediums. And look at these hives. That's the second deep. They're really, really quite prolific and a little bit stingy in this weather. It's a bit cool and a bit early. So all those grumpy foragers are home. I'm not sure if I can even do this because I have to shake bees everywhere, so that might be a bit too exciting. So I've got 2 boxes on the ground here, and they're just to make this box sit up a bit so I don't have to stoop. My back doesn't like that. Especially yesterday after lifting those deeps. Oh, I had a hard time getting out of bed. Shouldn't have been doing that. Looks like I'm going to be lifting one more though here. At least one more. Likely 3 or 4 more. So there's 10 drawn frames in here. So one will come out and go in the next box. And this is all brood chamber. So the queen could be anywhere. I'll look for the queen. If I find her, then I don't need to shake bees any further. That's some nice capped honey there. So a quick look for the queen. She marked these queens, so I might just see her. Look at that beautiful honey. Yeah, see, all these old bees are here and they don't care for this stuff. The young bees are not as bad. The heat coming out of the hive is remarkable. So as you'd expect, this is a nice brood frame, being that it's in the brood chamber. The next 5 frames, I believe, will be mediums. As I mentioned, she runs mediums and sells medium nukes as a result. Now this is not a problem. People might think, oh well, I run deep brood chambers, I don't want to buy a medium nuke. Well, you can see they're strong. There's no problem that way. And you see how they've built the drone comb on the bottom. Actually, a lot of that's worker comb. So I just put that medium frame right into my brood chamber, and they built that down in the bottom. And then I move that up to my honey super, and when that emerges, they'll backfill that with honey. That'll go to my honey house. I'll extract that, and I may, have to crush and strain some of the bottom part, but it's not a big problem. And then I can use these mediums otherwise, or quite often I'll give them back to her, because I don't generally use a lot of, well, they're kind of the brood frames anyway, right? So I don't use medium brood frames for sure. She can use them. Yeah, so that's how I deal with weeding out some mediums. It's not a problem. See, it's all, most of that's worker comb, and they've built some drones there now too. And it's stable, you know. It's not going to come off of there. It's nice, and brood comb is not as heavy, and it seems to be a little tougher than honeycomb. Now this one, I can see they've kind of glued it to the next box, so it's going to be an issue because it's come off of the frame. So you see, I didn't get the bottom part of the comb there, so that can happen. I'll have to decide what to do. It's mostly drone. Well, it's half drone, half worker. So if I can salvage it, I will. That'll be nice. I'd like to leave it till I get the box off it. But the next one is kind of stuck as well. Well, if it comes off, it comes off. Most times they don't stick them down. So some of that one came off. If it's drone comb, you can take it out. Although, it'd be bad to have these genetics in the air. She's laying in that frame. And that is just one gorgeous frame of honey. I think that was foundation. Look how beautiful that is. It's very heavy. It's hard to hold like that. It'd be hard to shake too. Okay, so there's 9 frames here. There's one over there, and it's a beautiful frame of honey too. Yeah, I got tagged into the finger. So there's some comb here that you can't see. I'll try to get the box off, and then I just don't want to shake bees all over it and then try to take it out. Not worry about it too much if it's drone comb. Worker comb I'd like to salvage, but you know, drones don't get as much respect, do they? See, that's worker brood there, so I wouldn't mind salvaging that. Get this box on, and then I'll worry about that. Okay, I think I'm just going to try to stand that up in the bottom. Under the frame it came off. Kind of like that next one. So it's kind of, there's a space for it there. Do my best, you know. Oh, come on. Should have rubber bands, you know, people do cutouts, say I use rubber bands. I don't have any rubber bands. I'll stick that right in there. It's okay, that'll work. Now kind of get them 9 frames spaced. Okay, so now I want a honey super on here. I've got a frame. So if I bring 8 frames, I'll add that drawn one, or that honey frame as a 9th on here. I'm gonna have to clean this though, because that won't work with all that comb on top. I'm getting too rough. Stunk. 8 new honey frames. I'm gonna put this full one around the outside. I'll push those up to 9. Space them up. I love that spacing tool. And put the lid on. Created work for myself yesterday. I didn't catch the fact there was no queen excluder here. And I went and put this extra box on. Now, the chance of the queen having come up into this box is almost 0. It's a box of foundation. Yeah, this is the box that I'm gonna put these in. This is already 9 frames, so it's a little bit more spacious. Same deal, these were medium nukes. So some of these are medium frames. 5 of them are medium frames. If you do this and you end up with nice virgin wax, clean comb on the bottom, sometimes you can make comb honey out of that. I've had that happen. That kind of is what got me into comb honey. My first year, I inadvertently put a bunch of mediums in a deep honey super, and they drew the most perfectly straight, perfect comb. They didn't attach it to the side of the box. They didn't attach it to the frames below. I pulled those frames out of there, and they were just perfect. I cut that comb off the bottom and packaged it up for sale. It was really nice. So she's laying her heart out in this frame. I might see her. And again, I believe she's marked. It's a beautiful frame. So obviously I took the comb off of this one when I moved it up, because they've drawn new comb there. That's good. There's the queen. So we will, you know what, I always preach have a quiet box handy. I don't have a quiet box. I want to run and get one. So your quiet box doesn't have to be a pro nuke. It doesn't have to be anything at all. It's just some kind of a separate box that once you find your queen, even though she's gone into the bottom box now, there she is, she's on that frame still, you can put her in there just as a quiet place to be. And now I can put these frames back in here, and I know there's no queen in here. I know I hear you saying, well, sometimes there's 2 queens. Yeah, sometimes there is, but not usually. I'm rolling the dice here because that's just the way I live. Now the advantage here, besides not having to shake all those frames, is I've got a lot of bees in this top box that aren't being a pain right here. All right, she's right there. It's a nice big one. Wow, this girl's getting really good at raising queens. Very proud of her. I kind of started as one of her mentors at the beginning, and very proud of what she's produced and accomplished. She's a very, very good beekeeper. I dare say she's a better beekeeper than I am. I think the main difference is she knows enough to say enough is enough, and I probably try to run too many colonies. Okay, so that's good. Got a box, 9-frame box. It's mostly full. There's a lot of brood, so they'll backfill that still. 10 frames of foundation. And Bob's your uncle, as they say. You may notice some of these colorful boxes in my apiary. Some of them have pictures and paintings. Some of them are just abstracts and nice colors. My apiary is a little drab because it has these wax dip boxes, which I love wax dip boxes, but you know, they're not very interesting. So a couple of years ago, I bought some really nice boxes. I painted them white with a good quality white primer, and I took them over to a daycare. I know the woman who runs a daycare, and I said, here, just have the kids do some crazy artwork, and they did. And that's what I was left with. So they're nice and colorful. I really like having that diversity in the apiary. It just brightens things up a little bit. Little splashes of color here and there. It wasn't cheap. I mean, it cost me a lot of money and a lot of work, but it was good. It was worth it. I should do it again. I know a guy near here, he did the same thing, but instead of just taking it to daycare, he put a social media thing out, and he made it a kind of a marketing thing. And he had customers come and pick up a box, and they would then paint it, and he'd show the pictures on social media, and everybody would vote, and then the winner would get a jar of honey or something. So pretty cool. Okay, so this is a frame of, or a box of drawn comb. For some reason there's 10 frames. I guess there's some foundation in here. Because I just added this yesterday. And so like I say, the chance of the queen being up here is low, but it's higher than that box of foundation I was dealing with. This is a frame. This goes back to my first year. My first year, I wired a bunch of frames for foundationless, and I've been using them ever since, and every year they just get a little tougher. So there's no foundation in that frame, but I use them as honey frames because they're mostly large cells, drone size cells. I don't put those in the bird chamber. They work just fine. So, you know, that's something that if you've got fewer colonies, you want to save some money, but you got a little more time, you can wire up your honey frames and run a foundationless honey frame system. Save you nearly $20 a box. It just takes time to wire those. I don't shake absolutely every bee off. I shake the bees off, and then the few bees that are left I can quickly look at, and I can tell they're not a queen. Plus, the queen's a lot heavier, and if you give it a shake, she's gonna fall off. But I do take a quick look for her. They're right up in this box just overnight. So that tells me they were looking for some space. Okay. Second verse, same as the first. A little more bees and a little bit worse. So again, these are some mediums in here. Look at that slab of brood she's laid on that medium. There's both sides. That's a good queen. There's a big chunk of drone comb stayed in the bottom. There's a lot of bees in these. Well, these are some good nukes that I got. That's a deep. lots of drones, and you can remove that as a mite control strategy, because if you have mites in the brood cells, there will be more mites in drone brood than worker brood. I'm not going to bother with that right now. Just beautiful, beautiful frames. Look at that new frame. I love to see a new frame laid up with brood, and she's got a slab on that side. That's so gorgeous. Beautiful nukes. Boy, these are nice nukes. I'm so happy with these. Do this quick. There's going to be bees. Oh, go off to the edges, and you're going to squash a bee or two. But the longer you wait, the more bees you're going to squash. Okay, you're jumping on me. I don't smoke my entrances as a rule. So sometimes they'll jump on me because I haven't smoked the guard bees. Now we've got queen excluders below our honey boxes. I see just a cell or two of nectar just since I put this on here yesterday. So they definitely were in want of space. More foundationless. I like those. And what I don't like about them is they're not universal. They have to go in honey super. I don't want those in brood chamber, because it's just a big frame of drone cells. I mean, if I wanted a drone frame, then that's what I could use. But I usually don't want an entire frame of drones. If I want that, I've got the Pureco green IPM frames for that. Come on, little bee. If queen excluders aren't working for you and you say your bees won't go through, you need to use something called a bait frame above your queen excluder. Pull a frame of brood out of the brood chamber, replace it with whatever, and these bees are getting everywhere. And then with the brood here, those bees will come through that queen excluder in a matter of seconds. If they don't have a reason to go through queen excluder, then they just see that as a ceiling. But if there's brood up there, and people say, I've heard people say, if you know, a frame of honey, and I had oh boy, yeah, they're really stingy. Holy smokes! I had a hobbyist say that when he started out, he had only foundation, so he was spritzing his foundation with sugar syrup, and he said that worked great too. It's the easiest thing for me to pull up a brood frame. And not only that, here's another thing. I say this a lot, but I'll say it again. This idea of pulling a bait frame serves two purposes for me. That is all laid up. You can't see it, but it's all eggs and larvae. Both sides is beautiful. So what that does for me, you see this old frame here? I hate this frame because the ears are too long. It jams in the box. I got a lot of these. I need to take them out, cut the end off a little bit. But for any reason, it's also old. And we all know that we should rotate the age of our frames. Take the old comb out. And so what happens here is when I pull the bait frames up, that ensures that those will end up in the honey house. And because I use a radial extractor, I'll handle that frame and I'll get to look at it and see it. And if I don't like the way it looks, I don't like something about it, it's broken, something wrong with the comb, something wrong with the foundation, it's just too old, I'll set that aside. I'll either dispose of it, or maybe I'll render it and clean it up and refresh it with a fresh foundation, or at least a cleaned up foundation. So that act of pulling that bait frame does those two things for me. It ensures the success and the performance of the queen excluder as far as bees going through it, and it also is an integral part of my comb rotation program. Okay, so I brought this other queen excluder over. This is the gray Man Lake unit, and they're fine. I have no problem with them. People say, oh, plastic, they're sharp on the edge. They're not sharp, they're smooth as a baby's bottom. People are always talking about wing damage and whatnot. I've never seen any pictures of damaged wings caused by queen excluders. I don't know how people can make that claim. People could, I suppose, make some kind of a unfounded claim or opinion. But regardless, the reason I pass this over, I'm finding that these plastic ones are failing at the corners. So I don't really know if this is something I'm doing, but I'm going to make sure I see that. That's not good. That queen will find that, she'll get through. So that goes in the broken pile. And if I'm building something, maybe I'm building a queen timing cage, then I can cut a piece of this out and use that. So that's not garbage. I can use that. I'll cut it up and use it for something someday. It's Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. And I just got back from a quick trip to Winnipeg. It's about noon now, and I picked up a box at the UPS store. Live bees. So this was packed up by James McNally in Grand Prairie, and look at what a great job he did packing this up. Ventilation. I have not been in here yet, but I can kind of see in it a bit, and there's attendants running around. So I'm anxious to see what he's got in there. We had a little bit too much mortality last time, and so we discussed some proposed improvements, and I think he did a really bang-up job. And I mean, he did a bang-up job last time, but I think there were some things that we just could have done better. So let's look in these and see how these queens are made out, and then I gotta get working here and get them in the hives. I think I forgot to press record, so I'll show you this again quickly. So this time around, James put a baggie, he split the baggie on the bottom with some damp sponge pieces in there. Those are nice and damp still, so I think that worked out. And he also, instead of a JZBZ battery box, he drilled little pieces of wood with holes to space the queens out more, and he put some candy in the holes to give the attendants something to use. Now, what happened, there was a little incident. but nothing too major. I opened it up and I saw a marked queen sitting right here. So what had happened is 2 of these cages had come out, and they were lying there, and they had eaten all of the candy out of the one, and almost all the candy out of the second. The second one, the queen was still in the cage, so I replaced the candy. And the first one, cage was empty, so I put that mated queen back in that cage and also replaced the candy. So that's just a rundown on what I explained a minute ago to a camera that wasn't recording. Now, one of my difficulties, of course, this time of year with a honey flow on, we always have that difficulty. I've had to put honey supers on these. So I'm going to put a mated queen in the center section. So hopefully I can take this box off. Take that queen excluder off. And I'm hoping to just simply take this queen. I don't know if I have to try to get it in the center. If I could put it off, I probably could put it off center, but we'll try. I'll try to get it right in the middle here. Don't want it to fall down. All right, so there we go. It's not that bad. Put this all back together now. You have to make sure I mark these. I'm going to give it a -1. Actually a -2. Because it doesn't matter, because the other one doesn't have a dash. Just so I know which ones are the second round. Okay, 22 in. Thanks, James. I really appreciate that. And keep you apprised as to how the acceptance and laying goes over the next few weeks. I'm sure they'll come up to speed for the most part and winter well. Okay, here's for some numbers. I just did a count, and this is way more than I anticipated. There are 52 at my out yards, and there's 80. You can't remember now. I just counted. There's 83, I think, here, and I think Ian said he has 37. I'm going to be putting together some equipment here, these 6s, and polystyrene's going to get involved. And so I totaled everything up. And if you recall, last winter, my overall mortality was about 172. And if you total, the 37, what's here, what's the out yard, it's 172. Wow. There's 2 swarms over here that may or may not amount to anything. So it's 174. There are a few that aren't adding up. I know that there are definitely 2 at the out yards that didn't make it. And there might be more. I have to do some more checking. And there's still a couple here that aren't working out. I think there's a couple. There's more than 3 surviving. There's 5 surviving, but 2 of them aren't getting it. I was going to requeen them, but I used all my queens here, so we'll see. We'll see what happens with those. I could give them a frame of eggs and see what happens with them. So yeah, so those numbers, that's ironically similar, isn't it? Yeah, I think we see what's going on here. What's going on is I'm going to have a lot of bees to feed and a lot of bees to winter. I just hope I'm up to it. I want to honor all the kindness that's been sent my way, and I don't want this to fail. Having my colonies fail is one thing. I mean, James brought colonies last year, and most of those died, but you know, I felt really bad about that. I really felt bad about that. So anyway, I'm pooped. I gotta take a look at these swarms and see what I'm gonna do with them. So thanks for watching. Well, it's swarm season in my part of the world. And I've got this swarm is making its way to the apiary day by day. And I have this swarm that I pulled out of the same tree. And they need to be done something with because they're too big for that box. And there's this swarm, all landed the same place. I think the one swarm landed on that branch, but I'm gonna lift the box up there with the tractor, see if I can shake them in. Okay, I'm gonna do this Bob Walker style. Hold the camera with one hand and work with the other. So not the most elegant swarm shake, but you know, if by chance the queen's in the box, they may follow suit. And they always collect back on the tree, but if the queen is in the box, they'll go in. Look at them. Batting here. We got a little bit of a march going here. I put a little bit of this on the top bars. It's a synthetic Nasanov. It'll help them locate to the box. It's Thursday, July 18th, 2024, and I looked from horizon to horizon all the way around, and there is, there's one tiny cloud in the sky. This is the most perfectly beautiful blue sky I've seen, I think, this summer. And it's sufficiently warm. The sun is very hot. But you know, I don't usually wear a hat unless I'm wearing my veil. I think it's low 20s C out here. So it's really quite comfortable. And we have a little bit of a breeze, which keeps you cool down. You can see a bunch of stuff I'm doing here. I laid out a whole whack of 6-frame wooden equipment here. I'm getting a few more boxes next week, and so I'm going to put those on there. And then over here, my beloved polystyrene Swiss cheese boxes. I have to use those again, and I don't think I have enough even. I might have to borrow a few wooden boxes. I have pallets and covers for wooden boxes. I just don't have enough boxes. So, and this is in preparation for 37 nukes. Monday or Tuesday next week, I'm going to go to Ian's and get, I think he said 37 nukes. So what he did is out of the 108, I think, nuke boxes I had prepared in early May to take over there for him to put his culled queens in, and those resulted in the zombies that I just put the queens in here from James yesterday. So there were some left over. He made up, I think he said he made up, he ended up making up 65 or so zombies, and so I had quite a few boxes left over, and he used those wisely. He took some nukes, and I believe this is what he did. When they graft queens, they graft into this 6-frame equipment that I've got sitting here, and so the ones that didn't take, he split those up into my little 4-frame boxes. See, I got screen bottoms. They're nice because they've got a entrance disc you can close. So he split those up into the 4-frame boxes, and I believe he said he did 40 of them, maybe a little more than 40, and put cells in them. He put cells in them for me, and he messaged me last week. He says, well, 37 of those made it, so come and get them. And so we agreed that I'd come Monday, Tuesday next week and get those. So I have to prepare space because they can't live in 4-frame boxes forever. They should fill out 6s just fine, and then they should winter in there. So that's what I'm doing. I'm dragging out all of my equipment, and I'm running out. So that's kind of crazy. Come out of winter with 3 colonies, and now I don't have enough equipment. That's just kind of the way beekeeping goes sometimes. I better winter well this year. I might have a lot of people disappointed in me. I hope I do, because and there's no reason I shouldn't be able to, because I have wintered well in the past, and I'm just trying to get my sea legs again, I guess. I don't know what's going on. Well, I knew what went on last year. It was Ametrez resistant mites, and that was lab confirmed too, not just my guess. So that is what I'm doing here. I just thought I'd take a little break and catch up on what's going on, and I'll take you over there and show you kind of what's going on. So I'm just putting together these polystyrene boxes, polystyrene hives really, and the wind is going to blow that over. And that's one of the things that I don't care for with these is here, this is going to blow that over, is very, very light, and I constantly have to remember to have a brick on the lid. She's going to go. But so I thought I'd show you this. They're kind of good, if you had this as an entire system, it might be fine. So the system is built, it's a 6-frame box, and they make these in 10s as well. I've had the 10s. This is called a bee box. It's sold by Paradise. I've seen this design under different names though. So what this has is the box and the bottom board and the lid have a groove so that you can put this divider in here and run 2 3-frame for mating, I guess, and so you have an entrance here and an entrance here. I don't use them like that, so this little plastic thing, all kinds of little plastic bits to lose, right? That's the first thing I don't like. And then from factory, there's actually a good quality screen that goes right in here in this hole. So it's a kind of a screen bottom board. It doesn't stay in real well. You have to use push pins and stuff to keep it in. I don't really care to use a screen bottom board, so I've taken the divider and I've cut it down on my table saw so that it fits snug in the bottom. So now I have a solid bottom board and a 6-frame box. And the box itself is pretty straightforward. So this is really about as nice as it gets. The box itself, when you get it, you have to put it together. There's 4 sides. You can glue it, and there's big mortise and tenons in here. It holds together pretty good. I've actually, on some of them, I've had to buy a really long, rather expensive screw to screw it down into here. Get lots of screw depth to bite into the polystyrene, because there's not much to pull on there. So they have these plastic, it's a frame rest and a pry point to open the box, whatnot. And they have the same on the bottom. So if you have 2 boxes, you can pry in between the plastic bits instead of mash up the polystyrene. Now, so those are kind of some of the features. Wax moth. This is why I have these. This guy had them and he had a huge wax moth problem. He had stored them for a while and he had a big wax moth problem. So he said, if you want to clean up this mess, you can have these boxes. So I did, and boy, it was a mess, and it was a stinky, awful mess. But I got free equipment, and so you can see how wax moth, they go right through this stuff. And this is one of the nice ones. A lot of them don't have the plastic frame rest, and the wax moths have chewed the ends right out of the boxes. Just brutal, just brutal. So we got that, and then the lid. The box has that groove in the middle, as I pointed out. The lid has kind of a groove in the middle. This hole is not factory. I drilled that hole so I can feed with a pail like I feed everything else. And I also use a regular foamy inner cover just to keep the bees from gluing the lid to the comb. So that's what they look like. I've got a little wedge that I put in here. This opening is a little more than 3/4, so my wedge doesn't wedge in, it just kind of sits there. But yeah, it still works. Yeah, so I have 30, it looks like I have 37, and the determining factor is bottom boards. There's 6 of them fit on a standard chip quite nicely, and that then is easy for me to transport and go into winter, etc., etc. So when I'm done getting all this out, I've got these are feed frames that came out of winter. They've been in storage since. I'm just going to put 2 of those in each box, each 6-frame box, because the nukes I'm getting are on 4 frames. So I did that math in my head, and I could tell that adding 2 would fill the box. Yeah, so it's just that. It's not very exciting. So tomorrow I have to go and do some errands, and so I won't likely be doing much updating tomorrow, and that'll take us into the weekend, and you can watch this Saturday morning with your coffee. I appreciate you watching. I really appreciate the loyal viewership. That's really awesome. So what can I say? Have a great weekend, and have fun with your bees. Have fun in your apiary. The sound out here is incredible. It's a beautiful day. This is my office. What more could I want, right? Take care. I'm taking a diversion from setting up those 6-framers to deal with this. I'd like to get this in a 10-frame box, mainly because I want to use the 6-framer over there. This says check Queen July 18th, and today is July 18th, so we're right on time. This is an introduced James McNally queen from last week. We're just going to see how she's making out. Not the greatest time to transfer to another box. And the reason I say that is when I introduce a queen, I'm always very shy to disturb the colony. Early on in my beekeeping career, I was witness to a colony balling a brand new queen that had been in a hive for less than a week. And they killed her right in front of me. And I've since learned that that's kind of a thing. That if you introduce a new mated queen, the bees take a while to really be convinced that she's the one. And if you disturb that hive, too soon, they can take exception to her and get rid of her. I see eggs here, so that's a really good sign. And I should stop. I will just look at one more frame. There's the Jay-Z Beezy cage you can see. It just would be nice to, oh yeah, milk brood. Oh yeah, she's got with the program. There's a little cup here. I always like to look in them. Looking in a cup kind of gives you a little bit of insight into the mind of the bees. What kind of things do they have planned? Now what I need to do is get this pallet off of here and get that pallet up on here and transfer this. I think what I'll do is just lift the box off and change the pallet. Been mowing the grass. It's got grass clippings all over it. Now, I'm going to put this on this side because I don't want it sitting over a void as I pull the frames out. If the queen gets brushed off a frame, she'll end up in the grass. It's not what I want. I need 4 more frames, which I have just over on the other side. Sometimes that happens. Put the box upside down. This is a feed frame. It's syrup or honey. I think it's honey at this time. I'm going to pull these 2 at a time. The heat coming out of this box is quite remarkable. Hopefully the bees won't take exception to what I'm doing and harm the queen in any way. Okay, that's another feed frame as well. So I'll put that on the outside, and I'll give the queen 2 frames on each side here to lay in. Bit of a thump. Hope they don't mind that. 4 nice drawn frames. Now I have a swarm on the wagon there that is on its way over here, and it'll sit here. I am not convinced it has a laying queen though, so that's yet to be seen. So that's the swarm on the wagon. It's almost to the fence, so I just keep moving it. No problems there. Now, these swarms, I've been catching swarms off my tree here, and there's 2 here. But the one in the pro-nuke is pretty big, and I want to get it out of that box. They're pretty active. I hope they've settled in and won't mind an intervention. I put this wood on here just to shade the top of the pro-nuke. The sun is pretty warm these days. I brought 4 frames. I was supposed to bring 5. I haven't looked in here since I dumped them in. There's enough of them. Just need enough smoke to be able to reach in and get them. This was foundation. These swarms really draw fast. It's been here, I don't know, 2-3 days. And I'm looking to see if she started laying yet. They're bringing in honey. Yeah, that's a rule of a swarm. I find that you can give them a frame or 2 of comb, but give them lots of foundation. If that swarm does nothing for you, they're going to draw some foundation. There's a nice drawn frame right in the middle. They might want a honey box before we're done. But we'll see. It looks like they found the entrance okay. They like the way it smells. It smells like home. So I just lift that with my tractor and move it 4 feet every day. Every day I can. It's not quite as convenient as the wagon, but maybe when the wagon is free, I'll set that pallet on the wagon.